Have you ever noticed that the more you try to control your life, the more chaotic it becomes? You make plans, you push yourself, you force things to go your way, but no matter how hard you try, things fall apart. One problem after another, everything slips through your hands like sand, and you wonder, where did I go wrong? The truth is, you didn't. You were simply using the wrong kind of power. Real power doesn't come from control. It comes from calm, from the ability to stay steady when everything else shakes, from the strength to pause to see clearly and to act without panic. In this video, you'll learn 11 Stoic lessons, not vague theories, but time-tested strategies that have helped people stay grounded through the hardest storms. These lessons will teach you how to remain calm and how to use that calm as your greatest advantage. But before we begin, if you believe calmness is real strength, like this video and subscribe to the channel, let's bring more clarity into a world that needs it.
Number 1.
Calm, your strongest weapon. Picture this. It's a rainy morning. The streets are flooded like a maze, and you're stuck in a sea of honking cars. Your coat is soaked, your shoes squished with every step, and the meeting you were supposed to lead starts in 10 minutes. You feel frustration bubbling up, the noise, the damp jacket clinging to your back, the pressure of being late. But then, in the middle of that chaos, a single question rises in your mind. If I lose my calm now, what exactly will it change? That question doesn't part the traffic or stop the rain, but it opens something more important. A choice not to control the storm, but to control yourself. That's where true power begins. Not with force, but with restraint. Not with shouting, but with silence. And no one understood this better than Oprah Winfrey. She grew up in poverty and abuse, often wanting to scream at life, "Why me?" But instead of letting bitterness define her, she chose reflection. She kept a journal. She slowed down her mind. She asked herself daily, what is the lesson here? Slowly, quietly, she began turning wounds into wisdom. That calm attention to inner life became her greatest asset. She built a media empire, not through chaos, but through clarity. Calm wasn't her weakness, it was her launchpad. Modern neuroscience backs this up. When you panic, your amygdala hijacks the brain, flooding your system with stress hormones and throwing you into survival mode. You snap, you rush, you react. But when you pause, when you take just one deep breath, your prefrontal cortex comes back online. That part of your brain lets you plan, reason, and lead. In other words, your calm isn't passive. It's the command center of your power. So how do you build this kind of calm, especially in a world that never stops shouting? Start small. Practice the one breath moment. Whenever you feel tension rise, stop. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Breathe out for 4. Just one cycle. Then at night, write in your calm journal. Note 3 moments where you felt provoked and how you could handle them better next time. Finally, train your patience with micro challenges. Stand in line without checking your phone. Sit in silence for 5 minutes. Let someone finish their rant without interrupting. These small acts build enormous strength. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The disturbance is not in the event itself, but in your judgment of it." Calm is not a gift, it's a skill. And like all skills, it grows with use. As Oprah has shown the world, those who master their mind can move mountains. So ask yourself right now, do you want to be a prisoner of your emotions or the architect of your destiny? The moment you choose calm, you awaken your strongest weapon, one that no chaos, no insult, and no failure can take away from you.
Number 2.
You don't control everything. It's a beautiful morning. You wake up early, take a sip of hot coffee, and feel like life is finally falling into place. Everything is planned, Work will be done on time. Your gym session is booked for 5 p.m. And tonight, a warm dinner with loved ones awaits. Your day is arranged like a game of chess, every piece positioned with precision before the first move is made. You feel ready, you feel in control. But then, your phone buzzes, a message from your boss. Send me the plan again. I need to revise it urgently. A friend cancels dinner at the last minute. On the drive home, a traffic jam eats up 2 precious hours. And the person you were counting on to listen, your emotional anchor for the day, replies with 3 cold words. Busy. Talk later. How do you feel? Disappointed, frustrated, maybe even betrayed by life itself, because deep down you think, I did everything right, I planned carefully, I showed up, so why is everything still spinning out of control? This is where the great paradox lies. The more you try to control everything, the more life reminds you that you never fully could. Naval Ravikant once said, suffering comes from trying to control what is uncontrollable. And he was right, because at its core, stress doesn't arise from what happens, but from your refusal to accept what happens. You want others to act how you expect. You want outcomes to follow your script. But life doesn't take direction from your plans. It unfolds according to its own design. The Stoics taught this over 2,000 years ago. Epictetus wrote, some things are up to us and some are not. Only when we try to hold on to what isn't ours do we begin to suffer. And modern psychology echoes the same truth. A Stanford University study found that individuals who learn to accept uncertainty and focus only on what they can influence experience greater well-being, reduced anxiety, and more emotional flexibility. So what can you do when life unravels? Start with the letting go test. When the unexpected hits, don't ask, why me? Instead ask, is this within my control? If the answer is no, release it. Surrender isn't weakness, it's clarity. Next, embrace a chaos day once a week. Don't plan everything. Don't organize every hour. Let the day shape itself. It may feel strange at first, but with time, you'll realize how resilient your mind truly is when freed from rigid expectations. And finally, remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. The mind adapts and turns anything to its purpose. This isn't just philosophy, it's your inner compass. You cannot control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And often it's only when you stop trying to micromanage every gust that you truly begin to feel the power of the sea beneath you. That's not chaos, that's freedom.
Number 3.
Gratitude before complaint. You wake up in the morning and the first thought that crosses your mind is, I'm so tired, or another long day ahead. Before you even brush your teeth, your mind is already racing through a list of what you lack: time, money, recognition, opportunity. And just like that, your entire day begins in a state of scarcity. A quiet pressure follows you, a weight you can't quite name, but you feel it, a dull sense of frustration and unrest. But have you ever paused and asked yourself, what would happen if I started the day with gratitude instead of complaint? Science has an answer. A study at the University of California, Berkeley, divided participants into 2 groups. One group wrote down 3 things they were grateful for every night. The other group wrote about anything. After a few weeks, the gratitude group showed increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain tied to calm, clarity, and decision-making. The other group showed no significant change. This explains why gratitude isn't just a fluffy, positive mindset. It's a neurological strategy, a way to reprogram the brain's filter. When you focus on what's good, your mind begins to see more of it. But when you focus on what's missing, that's all your brain will notice. This aligns perfectly with what Seneca once wrote. It is not happiness that makes us grateful. It is gratitude that makes us happy. You don't need to have everything to feel full. On the contrary, you only need to learn how to truly see what's already in front of you. It's a skill, a discipline, a way of living, and like any skill, it can be trained. So where do you start? Begin with this. The moment you open your eyes in the morning, speak the words clearly and deliberately. Thank you. Thank you for being alive. Thank you for another chance. Thank you for one more day to change. Then before going to bed, write down 3 things you felt grateful for that day. They don't have to be grand. A good cup of coffee, a kind word, a moment of stillness in a busy world. And finally, every time you feel the urge to complain, ask yourself, in this situation, what's still going right that I've forgotten to notice? Because if you don't train your mind to see what's good, it will default to seeing what's wrong, and you'll live every day as though you're lacking everything, while in truth, you already have far more than you think. So try this. Change the way you start your day, not with a sigh, but with a thank you, and watch. Everything begins to shift.
Number 4.
Think right to live right. Every action you take, every word you speak, every decision you make, it all begins in one place. Your thoughts, and the most dangerous part? Most of us are not even aware of them. We let them run unchecked, shaping our mood, our choices, and ultimately our reality, without realizing we're handing over the wheel. Have you ever woken up with a vague feeling that today is going to be bad? There's no concrete reason, just a heavy energy sitting on your chest, a silent forecast of negativity, and suddenly you begin looking for proof. The traffic jam, the rude reply, the missed opportunity. You don't just experience your day, you build it around the emotion you started with, and that's the part we miss. Our thoughts don't just reflect reality, they generate it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." It sounds simple, but when you truly live by it, when you begin to monitor the soil in which every word and action is rooted, life changes. Take Steve Jobs, for example. Though not a Stoic in label, he lived with sharp intentionality. Before making major decisions, he would ask himself, if today were the last day of my life, would I still want to do this? That one question wasn't just a compass for action, it was a filter for thought. It left no room for indulgent negativity, vague hesitation, or passive drifting. It demanded clarity. Modern science confirms what the Stoics knew. A study from Harvard found that just 5 minutes of intentional thinking in the morning, conscious reflection, not wishful daydreaming, enhanced participants' ability to manage stress and make sound decisions throughout the day. Not because life got easier, but because their minds became more precise. So how do you start? First, catch negative thoughts in the act. When you hear, "I'm not good enough," or "nothing ever works out," interrupt that pattern. Ask yourself, is that true? Or is it just a tired loop I've played too long? Second, transform reflection into motion. Write your thought down, speak to yourself with clarity, then move. Take one step, however small, from a steadier place. Lastly, practice visualization. Not as fantasy, but as mental training. Each morning, see yourself speaking calmly in conflict. Picture yourself walking away from pressure without guilt. Imagine choosing presence over panic. These images aren't dreams, they are rehearsals. As James Clear wisely said, every thought is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. If you want to live right, you must think right, and nothing transforms your life faster than learning to guide the one thing that guides everything else, your mind.
Number 5.
Your attention shapes your reality. 2 people walk down the same street, and yet they see 2 completely different worlds. One notices the traffic jam, the blaring horns, the litter on the sidewalk. The other catches the sunlight flickering through the trees, the sound of children laughing in the distance, and the warm glance of a passing stranger. The world hasn't changed. What changed is what each person paid attention to. And just like a camera only captures what its lens is aimed at, your mind works the same way. It doesn't record the entire reality. It filters and stores only what you choose to focus on. Seneca once warned, "The mind is its own place. It can make heaven of hell or hell of heaven." If you constantly fixate on lack, disorder, and what's wrong, you'll end up living in a version of reality that wears you down, no matter how much you actually have. This is also why some people, who seem to have everything, career, wealth, relationships, still feel empty, while others with simpler lives feel deeply at peace. It's not because one has more. It's because one has learned to focus on what nourishes the soul. Consider Will Smith. In an interview, he once said that his success didn't just come from talent or drive. It came from learning how to ignore distractions and focus only on what truly matters. He trained himself not to give his attention to anything that didn't strengthen his values. Not negative comments, not panic-inducing news, not noise that added no meaning. Modern psychology confirms this. When your attention stays too long on negative stimuli, your brain begins to carve neural pathways, like a mental autofocus stuck on what's wrong. But if you train your attention to shift toward the good, the brain rewires itself. Over time, this brings more emotional steadiness, clarity, and resilience. So what can you do starting today? First, try a mental diet. Cut down on bad news. Unfollow negative content. Ask yourself honestly, is what I'm consuming uplifting or poisoning my thoughts? You don't just eat with your mouth, you eat with your mind. Second, whenever your thoughts spiral into worry, gently shift your focus through a simple act. Take a walk, look at the sky, return to your breath. These aren't small acts. They're tools that reset your lens. And finally, choose your companions wisely because you become the voice you hear most often. If you crave peace, be near those who know when silence is power. If you seek strength, listen to those who don't fall apart every time life bends. In the end, as Epictetus said, where you place your attention, that is where you place your soul. And you deserve to place your soul somewhere spacious, not stuck in the noise of the petty and the pointless. Number 6, if you don't rest, your mind will shut down for you. Have you ever stared at a screen for hours, reading the same sentence over and over, and still not understanding it? You're on your third cup of coffee, another browser tab is open, you're trying to push through, but your thoughts are heavy, slow. Your brain feels fogged, like a silent mist has wrapped itself around it. And instead of stopping, you accelerate. You slam the gas when the tank is already bone dry. This isn't a lack of discipline. It's a misunderstanding of productivity. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that rest is laziness, that stopping is weakness, that momentum must never be broken. But here's the truth. Rest is not indulgence, it's intelligence. It's not weakness. It's a cornerstone of long-term strength. Seneca once wrote, "Even the sharpest blade must be sheathed to preserve its edge." And you, no matter how brilliant or committed, need stillness to preserve your clarity, your judgment, and your will. Even the strongest warrior knows the value of retreat, not as surrender, but as strategy. This wisdom isn't just philosophical, it's biological. Neuroscience has shown that when you rest, your brain doesn't shut off. It activates the default mode network, an internal system responsible for organizing memories, processing emotion, and forming creative connections. So while you may look still, your mind is at work in a deeper, more integrative way. Look at Bill Gates, one of the most strategic minds in the modern world. Each year, he disappears into a think week. No meetings, no noise, no screens, just books, writing in silence. Many of Microsoft's most transformative ideas were born during those slow, quiet days. Not during the rush of a product launch, but in the pause that allowed depth to rise. So how do you rest well without guilt? First, build a shutdown ritual into your evenings. No emails after 9 p.m., no last-minute scrolling. Choose silence over noise. Read a few pages. Write a single sentence. Sit with your thoughts instead of outrunning them. Second, learn to spot the early signs of mental fatigue, irritation, foggy focus, or feeling emotionally flat about things that once sparked joy. These are not signals to ignore. They are red flags from your nervous system. Respect them. And finally, don't wait until you collapse. Rest before your mind forces you to. Just as a seasoned athlete doesn't wait for injury to begin recovery, you must learn to pause not when it's convenient, but when it's wise. Because true discipline is not the refusal to rest, it is the courage to stop. As Marcus Aurelius once reminded us, when the body needs sleep, let it sleep, not to escape life, but to return to it with twice the strength. Number 7, your morning shapes your destiny. Imagine 2 versions of yourself waking up at the exact same time. In the first version, your eyes open and your hand instantly reaches for the phone. Before your feet even touch the ground, you're pulled into a vortex, work messages, an email from your boss, a disturbing headline, and a few unconscious scrolls through social media. You haven't even breathed deeply, and yet your mind is already hijacked, reactive, anxious, scattered. In the second version, your eyes open and you rise slowly. You sip some water, you stretch your spine, you take 3 deep breaths, you write a few thoughts in a journal. Or maybe you simply sit by the window, watching the light shift in silence. You haven't done much, but the difference is profound. You're not being dragged by the day, you're directing it. So let me ask you, which version are you living? And more importantly, have you realized that the way you start your morning is a blueprint for how you'll live your entire life? Marcus Aurelius once wrote to himself, "When you wake, do not complain that you must face the day. Remember, you were born to do the work of a human being." He wasn't pushing himself to grind harder. He was reminding himself to wake with purpose, with awareness, to meet the day, not run from it. Modern science backs him up, Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, one of the world's leading voices on behavioral health, found that people who avoid screens for just the first 30 minutes of their day reduce stress levels by up to 40%. Not only that, they make clearer decisions, remain more emotionally stable, and feel more grounded throughout the day. That's not magic, that's structure. So if you want to build a resilient mind, a composed spirit, and a life with direction, start with tomorrow morning. Step 1, move your phone out of arm's reach. Not because it's evil, but because your mind deserves to awaken in stillness, not noise. Step 2, do one thing that connects you with your presence. Make your bed with care. Read a single page. Write one sentence. Or drink water in silence. It's not the task. It's the state of mind you activate. Step 3, before plunging into your to-do list, ask yourself, who do I want to be today? Not what to achieve, but who to embody, because the quality of your actions will always rise or fall to the level of your identity. Habits shape who we are, and morning habits shape them most of all. You don't need a perfect morning routine, you just need a conscious one. And if you repeat it morning after morning, you won't just feel better, you'll become better, not by chasing motivation, but by designing intention. Number 8, what you visualize, you begin to build. Have you ever had this experience? You start paying attention to a specific car model, maybe a black sedan or a red SUV, and suddenly it's everywhere, on the street, in commercials, parked outside your grocery store. It feels like the whole world is saturated with it, but it's not that the car suddenly multiplied overnight. It's that your mind activated something called the cognitive filter. That's how the brain works. It doesn't passively record reality. It scans for what you've told it to look for. When you give attention to something, your brain begins filtering your entire experience to reinforce that focus. And this isn't just some mental trick. If used wisely, it's one of the most powerful tools for shaping your destiny. Epictetus once said, "Whatever you plant in your mind will grow in your reality." Which means this: if you're constantly visualizing fear, failure, and threat, your life will slowly take on the shape of those things. But if you consistently and deliberately visualize strength, growth, and clarity, your mind starts to work with you instead of against you. This isn't abstract philosophy. Some of the most successful creators, leaders, and visionaries in the world use visualization as part of their daily routine. Take Jim Carrey. Before he was famous, he wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered. Dated 3 years into the future, he carried it in his wallet. Every day he would vividly imagine receiving it, how it felt, what he was wearing, where he was, and 3 years later, almost to the day, he was paid exactly that amount for Dumb and Dumber. And so how do you put this into practice without fluff, without hype? First, visualize what you want, not what you fear. But don't leave it vague. Make it detailed. Where are you? What do you see? What do you feel in your body? What words are you speaking? Visualization isn't fantasy. It's training the mind to recognize possibility. Second, repeat it daily. Not for an hour, just a few focused minutes. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and experience that future reality as if it's happening now. Make it emotional. Make it real. Third, begin to act like someone who already lives that vision. Don't wait to feel confident to speak with strength. Speak with strength to become confident. Don't wait until peace finds you. Speak calmly, and peace will follow. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, your life is shaped by what your mind continually focuses on. So ask yourself, what are you mentally rehearsing again and again? Because your imagination is not a daydream, it's the blueprint of your reality. Guard it well. Number 9, breathe and take back control. There are moments in life that don't require a punch. Just a single sentence, sharp, dismissive, or completely false, is enough to make your blood boil. Someone cuts you off mid-sentence. Someone mocks you in public. Someone assigns blame that doesn't belong to you. And in a split second, your heart races, your breath shortens, your fists clench, and your mind narrows to just 2 words: fight back. But in that very instant, right before the emotional flood breaks, there is something small, almost invisible, that can shift the entire moment: the breath. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be cheerful but firm, calm but unwavering. That is the mark of a rational being." He knew that emotional power didn't come from unleashing your anger. It came from containing it, directing it, and mastering it. Today, neuroscience echoes his wisdom. A Harvard study found that conscious breathing temporarily quiets the amygdala, the fear and anger center of the brain, and activates the prefrontal cortex, the center for reason, strategy, and self-command. Your breath is not just a biological function. It's the remote control for your nervous system. It is the bridge between body and mind. And when you learn to use it, you stop being dragged by your emotions and start leading from clarity. Take Serena Williams, for example, one of the most dominant athletes in modern history. In the heat of a tense match, rather than shouting at the umpire or smashing a racket like many of her peers, she often steps away, turns her back briefly, and breathes deeply, slowly, with intent. That breath isn't weakness, it's what keeps her centered. It's what allows her not just to win points, but to win over her reactions. So how do you bring this into your own life? Start with the 4 to 7 8 method. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Do it 3 times when you feel that emotional wave rising. It calms the body, regulates the mind, and sends one clear message to your system. I am not at the mercy of this feeling. Next, create a buffer between impulse and reaction. When someone provokes you, say silently, pause 3 seconds. You don't need to respond instantly. You don't need to win the moment. Sometimes restraint is the greater power. And finally, train yourself to listen beyond the words of others. Watch how they breathe. Notice the tension in their tone, the way their sentences speed up or stumble. Learn to read the tide of emotion not just in yourself, but in others. Because if you can sense the storm in them, you don't have to join it. In the end, the strongest person in the room isn't the one who dominates the conversation. It's the one who remains unmoved in the face of chaos. The one who leads, not with noise, but with stillness. The one who breathes deepest, and therefore sees farthest. Number 10. Seek stillness and you'll find the answer. You open your eyes and before you can even sit up, your phone lights up with notifications, an email from work, unread messages, news headlines screaming about events you can't control. You step outside, and before a single clear thought can form, the sound of honking horns drowns it out. Already your peace is scattered before you've had a chance to anchor yourself. Then when you get home exhausted, overstimulated, slightly hollow, you don't rest. You turn on the TV, you scroll social media, you play a podcast, not for learning, but to avoid feeling the weight of silence. You say, I just need some background noise. But what you truly mean is, I don't want to be alone with my own thoughts. The truth is uncomfortable. We have built lives so full of noise that silence now feels threatening. But in the Stoic tradition, silence was never something to fear. It was the place where power began. Seneca once said, we are not disturbed by the world outside us, but by the noise within us. And that noise cannot be silenced by more distraction. It can only be met with attention. Modern science agrees. A study from Duke University revealed that when people spend time in silence, especially alone in nature or in distraction-free settings, the brain's default mode network activates. This is the part of the brain responsible for memory consolidation, self-reflection, and problem-solving. In other words, the less you consume, the more your mind processes. Silence is not a void, it's a forge. Look to Eckhart Tolle, author of The Power of Now. After years of internal struggle, anxiety, and existential despair, he fell into a long period of deep stillness. He didn't speak, he didn't distract, he listened. And out of that listening came a transformation so profound, he later described it as the moment his ego dissolved. His life's work was born from silence, not from noise. So how can you build this into your own life? First, reclaim a part of your day as sacred space. 15 minutes, no devices, no conversations, no input. Just sit, breathe. Let the thoughts rise, but don't chase them. Second, walk in silence. No headphones, no narration. Just your breath, your steps, and the world unfolding around you. Let stillness speak. Third, capture what emerges. Write it down. A realization, a question, a new truth rising from the calm. Sometimes one sentence from silence can change the trajectory of your life more than 100 loud opinions. Because answers don't arrive through force, they reveal themselves when the mind is quiet enough to receive them. And when that silence comes, not as absence, but as presence, you'll remember. The voice you were seeking was always your own. Number 11. Calmness is the highest form of strength. When you're not rushing, when you don't react immediately, when someone offends you, chaos unfolds around you, or fear begins to rise, and still you remain composed. That is not passivity, that is power. In those moments, you're not just alive, you're awake, aware, in control. And this strength doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't scream or demand attention. It reveals itself quietly, in eyes that don't flinch, in a voice that stays steady, and in decisions made without haste. Calmness becomes your armor, and people sense it. They sense that you cannot be provoked, manipulated, or shaken so easily. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, once wrote, "The strong are not those who do not suffer, but those who endure it with silence." That silence isn't weakness. It's the shield that protects clarity, the inner space where you observe your emotions without becoming them. To endure in silence is to possess a rare kind of discipline, one that does not beg for attention but earns respect. Consider Oprah Winfrey. She has faced attacks, controversies, and immense public pressure. And yet, in some of her hardest moments, she chose silence. She didn't react impulsively. She paused, she breathed, she allowed space for clarity to speak louder than anger. That silence wasn't emptiness. It was her center of gravity, and from it, she built a legacy. So what can you do to cultivate that kind of strength? First, pause. In moments of tension, ask yourself, am I reacting or am I choosing? That question alone can reset your entire approach. Reactivity is chaos. Choice is command. Second, train your patience daily. Practice small acts of self-restraint. Stand in line without checking your phone. Let someone cut you off in traffic and remain quiet. Allow a misunderstanding to pass without needing to defend yourself instantly. These are not defeats. They are inner repetitions, rehearsals for strength. Third, let go of the need to win every verbal battle. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to fight to be heard. What you need is to remain intact, to preserve your state, because real strength is not about overpowering others. It's about never being overpowered by yourself. Calmness is not a personality trait. It is a trained discipline, a decision, and once you tap into it, you begin to move differently, speak differently, live differently. Even when the world is loud, you become the stillness within the storm. That is the mark of someone who has mastered the most difficult power of all, the power over their own mind. That is the highest form of strength, and it is the Stoic's final gift. If you're still searching for peace, stop looking out there. Start within. Every principle you just heard isn't just philosophy. It's a practical weapon meant for those brave enough to face themselves and master their reactions. The Stoic path isn't easy, but it is clear, and you don't have to walk it alone. If this message resonated with you, hit like, subscribe, and stay with us on this journey to build a kind of strength the world can't shake.